Well, hey everybody. Hopefully this is working. My name is Bertie Gregory. I'm a wildlife camera person, and welcome to Earth Live lesson. This is pretty exciting. I haven't really done anything like this, so please bear with me. Right, what have we got? We've got Ronald the raccoon out here. We've got a surfboard. I even made my bed for this. So we're ready. Right, how this is going to work is I'm going to chat a little bit about a couple different things, but mainly about filming in the Canadian subarctic, filming polar bears. But the whole time, please ask as many questions as you can, or please heckle, call me out on things you think I've made up, and I'll do my best to try and answer those questions. So I would first like to say a big thank you to Lizzie Daly for coming up with this whole idea. And thanks for asking me to do one of these. So yeah, my name is Bertie Gregory. I'm 26. I live in Bristol in the southwest of England, and I've been filming wildlife professionally for about 5 years now. How I got started was, since I was really, really small, my family are all obsessed with water sports, hence the surfboards and stuff. I was always kind of encouraged to go outside. And I think when you spend that amount of time in the ocean, outdoors, you get an appreciation for being outdoors and wildlife. And when I was in my early teens, I kind of realized that everyone thought I was a bit weird because I was obsessed with wildlife. Every minute of spare time I'd rush outside and try and sneak up on any animal I could find near to where I lived. I realized that if I took pictures of what I was seeing, that was a great way to kind of channel my obsession, but also it was a great way to show where I'd been and try and explain all the weirdness that I was up to. So what I would say is that if you have something that you're interested in and everyone thinks is a bit strange, ignore them. If you enjoy it, that's what's important. Keep at it, and maybe one day it'll be you can do it as a job. So off the back of being obsessed with wildlife and taking lots of pictures, I entered a wildlife photography competition called 2020 Vision, which was run by an amazing guy called Pete Cairns. And he was looking for the UK's top 20 wildlife photographers and then 20 young photographers. And I was lucky enough to be selected as one of those young photographers. And we had to go around the UK and try and show that British wildlife is amazing. And off the back of that project, I got to speak at an event in London that one of the National Geographic photographers, a guy called Steve Winter, was presenting at. And he was looking for a new assistant. It was my Willy Wonka golden ticket moment. He offered me a job. I thought about it for about 0.1 seconds and then said yes. And that was how I kind of got introduced to National Geographic. And yeah, since then, I filmed behind the camera for National Geographic. I've also filmed on the recent BBC series 7 Worlds, 1 Planet. I was lucky enough to film on 6 of the 7 episodes in that series. As well as filming behind the camera, I do some stuff in front of the camera. And the main place I've done that is with a National Geographic series called Wildlife. And we're now we've done 3 seasons of it. And the most recent season was called The Big Freeze. Now, when Lizzie asked me to do this, I was thinking, what could I chat about? And I thought, well, the last time I went live like this, well, I've never really done something like this, but we went live from the field on the shoot for Wildlife Season 3. And we were trying to get a polar bear live. And we were broadcasting to 20 school classes around North America. And we did manage to find a polar bear live, which was amazing. But for whatever reason, the kids weren't particularly excited by it. But as soon as we found a moose live, just a few minutes later, they went crazy. So I thought, right, we better talk about polar bears, set things straight, get people excited about them. So the idea of The Big Freeze, the series, is really to try and kind of document this amazing event that happens annually. And we chose to tell this story in 2 places, but mainly in the Hudson Bay in the Canadian subarctic. And it's the big freeze is this amazing annual event where the ocean goes from a liquid, normal ocean to frozen over. And that gives lots of animals, specifically polar bears, the opportunity to get out on the ocean and to hunt their favorite prey, the seals. And we did 2 shoots for this series, this season. We did one in October, November in the autumn, which is when the ocean is freezing over. And then we did another shoot in the spring, southeast of the Hudson Bay in the Gulf of St. Lawrence in Quebec. And we were showing there how the ice down there in the spring is starting to break up and the animals there. So a little recap of Tom L says, how can you not be excited about a polar bear? Hey, they weren't very excited. I don't know why. We'll find out one day. So quick kind of recap of the polar bear life cycle. So the males and females have kind of different annual events, I guess, annual habits. So if you're a male polar bear, we'll start their normal average year in the winter time. So in the winter, the ocean is frozen over. They're not hibernating like every other species of bear in North America. You know, the brown bears, the black bears. Over winter, they're not hibernating. They're out on the sea ice, on the frozen ocean, looking for seals. And as they come into spring, this is really their best time of year because it's when all of the seals are giving birth. So there's lots of very easy to catch naive prey. So they fatten up during the spring and early summer. And in the Hudson Bay, they come off the ice. The ice pretty much melts, breaks up. They have to come off the ice in about July, early July, and they come onto land. And then for the summer months, that's their lean time when they really struggle to find food. They're just killing time and waiting for the autumn, the fall. End of October, start of November, the ice starts to reform and all the bears gather on the shore in anticipation for this big freeze. And then in about mid to end of November, the ocean's frozen over. And literally, it's an amazing thing to see. Overnight, all the bears that were on land disappear out onto the frozen ocean to hunt. So that's what the males are doing. The females are slightly different because they are the ones that have the cubs. So they're going to be mating with the males in the spring, early summer. And these polar bears have a really interesting reproductive cycle because the male sperm will fertilize the female's egg. And instead of implanting in her uterus wall inside her, it just floats around. They have a thing called delayed implantation. So she's not actually getting a big pregnant belly until later in the year. And the reason that's good for her is because as she gets pregnant, obviously that means she's a bit less mobile, a bit less athletic, and that's going to stop her being able to hunt really successfully during the best time for hunting, which is in that spring, early summer when all the seals are having their pups. So she's got to fatten up. She can triple, even quadruple her body weight from when she got on the ice. So she's fattening up, building up all these reserves. She gets off the ice when the ice starts to break up, and she comes to land. Now, this is same time coming to land in July. She's got that lean period. And then in about September, instead of congregating on the shore like the males do, waiting for the ocean to refreeze, she heads inland. And in the case of the Hudson Bay, a lot of the females are heading over 50 miles inland. And the reason that they're doing that is that she's got to make a den. But unlike places further north where polar bears den, they can den in snow. In the Western Hudson Bay, down in this, this is one of the southerlymost ranges of the polar bear. There's no snow for them to den in October when they start making that den. So they're actually digging an earth den, and they need to head 50 miles inland because that's where the ground is soft enough. It's not frozen. It's peat soil. They start digging an earth den. So then she's going to go to sleep in that den, growing those little cubs inside her. So she's in the den, and while she's hibernating in the den, the snow starts to blow in, and it starts to blow in over the winter. So when she actually emerges from the den, which is usually end of February, start of March, it looks like she's coming out of a den that she's made in the snow. but actually her den in the Hudson Bay is underground. It's in the earth, and then it's just been covered by the snow. So often when they break out the den, you'll see their white fur is really muddy. So they have a good roll around in the snow. Now, once she's broken out of the den, she's got these tiny little cubs with her. They are so unbelievably cute. She's got to then take those cubs to the ocean, which is frozen, to the frozen ocean, where she's rushing to the ocean because she has just spent about 7 months without eating, which is one of the longest, if not the longest periods that any mammal fasts. She rushes to the ocean where all those seals are giving birth, all the seals, her favorite food, are giving birth to pups. And that is a great opportunity for her to replenish her fat reserves because those cubs need lots and lots of milk. And the cubs are going to stay with mum for about 2.5 years, and then she's gonna kick them out. Now, for the big freeze, we decided to film two particular kind of windows. We filmed in the autumn, so that's when our goal was to film the male bears assembling on the shoreline, waiting for the ocean to freeze. It's a great time to film them because, they're just killing time. They're on the coast, itching to get back out on the ice. And during that time, they'll often meet up and they sort of form sparring buddies, little partners that it's so funny. They'll hang out with each other and they'll be sleeping, nuzzling, all friendly. And then all of a sudden they'll get up and they'll practice some fighting. It's pretty brutal to watch, but it is all just practice. It's play fighting. And then having just beaten each other to pieces, they'll then go back down to nuzzling and cuddling up to each other. It's a pretty bizarre thing to watch. Right, we've got some questions. Let's try and answer those. What camera and lens do you use for photography? Well, for this film, we were using a camera called a Red. It's a Red camera. It's like a 8K cinema camera and a big long lens, which is a 50 to 1000 millimeter lens. So polar bears, yeah. So one of the stories that I wanted to tell was that I saw this one picture of a wolf and a polar bear together. And I started to investigate that because I hadn't heard that, I'd never heard that had been kind of filmed before. And I wanted to know what was going on. And when I started to do some research and I chatted to a couple guides, they had these incredible stories of polar bears being chased, being hunted by wolves. And I thought that is just the most epic piece of animal behavior. It's almost like, one of those make-believe things that you see, ultimate animal battles, tiger versus killer whale. So I thought, well, we should go for that. Now, when you're pitching a story to a channel, if you're pitching to National Geographic, you have to play this balancing act. You're pitching a story to them, you have to play this balancing act because on the one hand, you want to pitch to them a really exciting story. You want to big it up to them as much as you can. But if they say yes, you then need to deliver on it. So if you overpromise and then you fail, well, then that's a problem. So you're playing this balancing act. So I thought, well, I think the evidence is good enough to go for this. What if we can film for the first time wolves hunting polar bears? And National Geographic said yes. And I immediately thought, oh no, what have I done? But I was signed up for it. We got to do it. So we arrived on location. We were staying in a little cabin that had a fence around it to keep the polar bears out. And we'd landed there on a little propeller plane. It's in the middle of nowhere. And we were in our cabin. And all of a sudden, a wolf ran past the fence and out into a clearing near to our cabin. And I thought, wow, this is a good start. Usually you see, you can try and film wolves and they roam over such big areas that, you might not see them for weeks. So I thought, well, this is a good start. There's a wolf here. So we quickly are getting our cameras together. And then all of a sudden, a polar bear walks past our fence and out into the same clearing. And I'm thinking, what? This is the first hour of being on location and already we've got a wolf and a polar bear near each other. So we got our cameras together and we ran out the fence. Well, actually, we didn't run. We went very slowly because, you don't run around wolves and bears. and they were both asleep about 100 meters apart from each other. And I thought, right, what if I can line them up to get the wolf and the polar bear in the same frame? That would be a really good first shot to introduce the two characters and how they're near each other. And so we crept round and we lined up the wolf in front of the bear. And I focused on the polar bear, and I thought, right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the focus. I'm going to pull the focus with my hand, pull the focus from the bear to the wolf so that the wolf's then in focus, and that'll be a really nice linking shot. So as I did that, I pulled the focus from the bear to the wolf, and as I was doing that, the wolf woke up and it began to howl. So by the time I got the focus to the wolf's face, it was full howl. Oh! And that was the first time on that shoot that I hit the record button. Me and the rest of the team, we all looked at each other after that and went, well, we should probably go home. It's not going to get better than this. Unfortunately, we got a bit overexcited too quickly. We didn't see another wolf for a week. And it all got quite sweaty, despite the fact that it was -20. Because, we thought, oh dear, the wolves have disappeared. But about a week later, we were in that same clearing, and we were filming a young male bear. He was young, but he was still a pretty good size. And having not seen the wolves for a week, all of a sudden, my guide Steve shouted, "Wolf, wolf, wolf." And it wasn't just one wolf, it was 3 wolves, and they came running down this big, long clearing towards us. And they came towards the bear. The bear got up, went towards them, and they had this amazing interaction where the wolves surrounded the bear and were testing it. And the bear was getting really anxious and then aggressive. It was just an incredible interaction to see, which we think was the first time wolves have ever been filmed harassing hunting bears like that. In that particular instance, they didn't go for the bear. This is how wolves hunt. They test all their prey, and if the prey is healthy, especially if it's healthy, a big polar bear, they're not going to go for it, and they moved on to another target. But amazing to see. Right, we've got a few minutes left for some questions. One of the questions: how did you start your quest, and what would you recommend? Okay, so that's quite a long and probably not very interesting story for lots of people. So if that person can message me on Instagram after this, my Instagram is @Bertie Gregory. I can give you the whole story, bore you with that. But in terms of just starting out in the industry, I found a few things that have really helped. I should say that I'm very early on in my career, and I'm sure there are lots of other people with much better advice than me, but I found a few things work. Using your initiative is huge. Don't expect someone to hold your hand and show you, there's no set path into the wildlife filmmaking industry. So don't expect someone to hold your hand and tell you exactly what you need to do. You need to use your initiative. Get out, that's the next thing. Get out and do it. Everyone has access to a camera, even if that's the camera on your phone. That's absolutely fine. Get outside, practice filming, make lots of mistakes, because there's nothing better than just doing, because then that's how you'll learn best. And it means that if you do get lucky enough to be offered a job, you'll have already made loads of mistakes that you don't need to make on an actual job. The other thing is, we live in an amazing age where you can broadcast. I mean, the fact that we can do this, I can chat with you guys live is amazing. So, post your videos on YouTube, on Instagram, get feedback from other people, because that's a great way to learn. What else? Working really hard and just spending every minute of spare time you have getting outside, learning to get close to animals without disturbing them. Learning to find amazing pieces of animal behavior. That's going to be your key. Dean Smith asks, what is my favorite animal and why? Easy answer, peregrine falcon. 2 reasons. Fastest animal on earth. I think that's pretty cool. And the other reason is that they're pigeon killing machines. And that's just incredible to watch them hunting. And you can see them hunting. The other reason I love them is you can see them in the middle of a city and in some of the wildest places on our planet. They live in all over the world. Their Latin name, Falco peregrinus. Falco means falcon, peregrinus means the wanderer, and that's such an awesome name. They just wander around the planet, whether that be in cities or in mountains or at the coast. They're amazing. Nikolai asks, what is my favorite type of penguin? It's got to be the macaroni penguin. They've got these big bright orange head feathers. They're not actually named after cheesy pasta. They're named after when British explorers first found the macaroni penguin. There was a group of kind of fashionable hipster people that lived in London at the time called macaronis, and they wore yellow feathers in their head, and the explorers thought that those penguins looked like the macaronis, so that's how they got their name. Right, I know Lizzie said keep these to 20 minutes, and I'm already at 21 minutes, so I'll do one more question. Emily D asks, is delayed implantation common in the UK? Well, delayed implantation is seen in lots of animals. Bears do it. I guess an example of animal that does it in the UK, deer, as far as I know, do it. But please heckle me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure deer do it. Yeah, well, I haven't reached much of your questions. I'm sorry. I'll try and reply to as many of them as possible. I hope that was interesting, vaguely informative, and entertaining. Wildlife is great. Do I have anything to round this up? Not really, other than, I hope you're all doing well in these difficult times. And yeah, stay strong. We'll get through this together. And Ronald the raccoon says goodbye. Thank you very much for listening. Please tune in to all of these live lessons. Lizzie's made an amazing schedule. There's loads of much more impressive, much cooler people than me doing them. So tune into them. Shameless plugs. If you want to keep up to date with my work, you can follow me on Instagram at Bertie Gregory. And if you want to see the big freeze series that I just talked about, it's all on YouTube, National Geographic YouTube. Just type in the big freeze and you'll find it. Right, shameless plugs over. Thank you very much for listening. And yeah, good to chat. Have a great rest of your day.